Hello, everybody. This is Alice Bull from scrapbookwonderland.com and the Scrap Happy membership group. And we're here for our LOAD wrap-up party. Yay! Super excited. It's been a very fun month. LOAD was very busy, and I saw so many amazing layouts in the galleries. It was absolutely fabulous. So we are going to sorry, I'm muting people if they're just making background noise. If you want to talk, like, you can totally take your mute off, which is fine. But Kathy, are you trying to talk right now? No? Okay. I'm just checking. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna have like a little recap of what our prompts were, go through some of the ideas that kind of came from that, and just kind of chat about how things went overall. And I think that that's going to be a lot of fun. So let's kind of get started, I guess. We started the month, and our theme, of course, is Legends of Hollywood. And I thought it would be super fun to go back right to the beginning of movies and say, hey, this is where film started, and kind of take us through this journey through time as filmography progressed and as time went by. And as we went, I wanted to visit different genres of movies, which I thought would be extra fun and incorporate a little bit of it would kind of make us think about how we can pull prompts to tell our scrapbooking stories or create our layouts. So we started in 1902 with A Trip to the Moon, which is by Georges Méliès, and he was one of the pioneers in creating special effects and coming up with cool ideas for making animation, or making films, not animation, but making films. He quickly learned how to make things appear and disappear in films, and it was a really fun place to start. If you've seen the movie Hugo, it came out, I think, in 2011. In Hugo, they actually feature Georges Méliès in that show. It's kind of about a little boy who's living in a train station or something. I don't know. I haven't seen it for a little while, but it was really cool. And that's where I had first heard of this guy. And when I went searching through a great place to start, like where did movies really start, he kind of is known as one of the grandfathers of film. He actually was the first person to make films have like a story, to tell a story, because at first they were just short clips of moving things. So somebody would film a street or just like totally random things. And he was the first one to really tell a story. And in A Trip to the Moon, it's quite fantastical. So if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to either check out the whole show or go and watch one of the clips about it, because it's super fun. And from there, we were supposed to use a special effect on our page, which, with scrapbooking, there's a million different things that you can do. For my page, I'll just show quickly, I chose to spray paint a wood veneer, and I used an app to write some words on a photo, which I don't do very often, and I wish I did some more. So I think that was a fun way for me to start. And I was actually down in Salt Lake City when I made that page, and I had Dietra there with me, so that was extra fun for me. And then our next day, we went, we kind of paid homage to Charlie Chaplin and the whole genre of silent films. And sorry, I think that Charlie Chaplin, if you like look into him, he really was really strict about the way he wanted things to be done. He really liked having control. He was one of those guys that actually controlled every element of a show, from the writing to the directing to the acting to the editing to like the whole production. He actually did all of it, which is really a fascinating thing. And we had our prompt for the day was to use no or few words in style of the silent film. And with scrapbooking, I find that that can be quite a challenge, But our feature designer that day was Tammy Lee, and she did a fabulous job showing her steampunk adventure that they had. And I think that was, she really kind of depicted that story without using words, which was a great thing. And that was my first day that I did, well, my first and only day this month actually that I did a digital layout. And I ended up using some words. I tried it without, but I did like a grid design with lots of different flowers on it because I had just visited the beautiful Temple Garden in Salt Lake City. And so the next day we moved on to day 3 and the jazz singer. Something you hear often, all the words, was kind of our thing because the jazz singer is known as the first talkie, the first talking movie. So the first one that actually has the audio with the actors' voices. And we had guest designer Tiffany Lauder that day. Actually, sorry, I forgot to mention on day 1, we had guest designer Tori Bissell. And on day 3, we had our guest designer, Tiffany Lauder, and you may know her from the Scrap Gals podcast. And Tiffany loves to do pages that have a lot of journaling, so I thought that she would be a really good person for that. She said that she was actually really nervous about creating a sample layout, and I said, no, we love it. We love it. We'll love what we have because we have so many different scrapbookers that have different styles. We have digi scrapbookers. We have people that are making pages on the Project Life app. We have pocket scrapbookers. We have scrapbookers that like to keep things really simple, and we have scrapbookers that like to do lots of embellishment and really make a work of art for their layouts. And I think that, you know, we incorporate all kinds of scrapbookers, which makes it really fun. And in the jazz singer, it was something where you tell all the words. And part of the prompt was you might want to scrapbook about something that you hear often. And for me, my little page that I did was, wow, that's a lot of driving. And I have a picture of myself getting crafty at the pool, watching my son swim back and forth and back and forth. And that's because we do a lot of driving to get him to his practices. So that was where I took that prompt. And on day 4, yay. So is this good? Or like we're going through all the prompts and it's all good? Yeah, so the jazz singer, the Bright Eyes. On day 4, we had Bright Eyes with Shirley Temple, and we were talking about child stars with Shirley Temple. And she really was one of the biggest stars of the time. And she was only like 7-10 years old, like really young. And she was one of the biggest stars of the time. And we created pages where we were the center of attention. And actually, our own Brielle Schmitz was our featured designer that day. And I thought that was just fabulous. So the whole center of attention be like, we kind of talked about childhood. And then my layout that I created was also from my childhood. And I talked about how I was a star of the parade. And really, like, I wasn't the star of the parade, but I felt like one just by being in it. I'm just going to check on something here. I've got a message from April. Oh. So April says she's coming, but she's just getting ready. Yeah, so that was from the child star. I should turn that over. And then we actually went on to our first animated film. And it was good to include some animation. And of course, that meant Walt Disney and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which was his first full-length animated film. And we kind of played with our topic that day. And Simone Dodrell from the Scrap Happy group, she was great with her sample layout. And we talked about mirror, mirror on the wall. What would you like the mirror to tell you? And she showed a layout that showed her progression through the years and kind of tackling and how she's come through a really tough time, which I thought was really a powerful thing to share with us. And the layout that I ended up creating kind of talks about the message that I'm leaving for my family and friends in my life, and how, I'm really pleased with the things I'm doing in my life, and, how we leave our mark on life. So I think that that was a really fun thing to be able to do and to be able to show. And yeah, just talking about what the mirror would or should show you was kind of a fun take on that prompt. So yeah, I think that was really good. Next up, we had The Wizard of Oz. Hey, April. The Wizard of Oz. And we had Natalie Schmidt as our featured designer. And Natalie had said, this is my favorite movie of all time. So she was really excited to have that prompt. Oh, I see Sherry's here. And with The Wizard of Oz, we took the theme of how the movie goes from black and white into color, and we brought that to our pages by using either a black and white photo with a colorful background or a colorful photo with a black and white background. And then you might also want to incorporate the idea of the three guys, like the woodman, the Tin Woodman, the lion, and the scarecrow. So like bravery, brains, and heart, and include that into your page. For me, that turned into this layout about my son, who is 18, and I talked about some of his qualities. And you know, we tend to battle it out a lot. He tends to be very much my style, so we clash heads a lot. But I thought that this was a really fun way to honor the things that I really love about him as a person. And yeah, and I even doodled on here. This is like a little bit of doodling with some gel pen, and you know, that was super fun. So yeah, using the black and white photo with the color, I decided that's something that I think I need to do a little bit more of, is by using that style. Because one thing that I discovered by using that prompt was how easy it was. Once I had that black and white photo, I could literally use anything on that page, like any paper kind of went with it, and it was awesome. So April says, forgive my appearance. I was on the patio in my swimsuit when I saw the announcement, so I just threw on a scarf so I wouldn't flash everyone. Totally good. You look gorgeous as usual. So D7, I'm going fast through these because we actually did a quick little review of the first few days when we did our Scrap Happy Hour last month. And I think that, you know, we want to get on to our big draw. So we'll go through the prompts and kind of talk about how that inspired us. It's not wine, but it felt like I should drink juice from glass, even though it felt more glamorous for our LOAD wrap-up party. So here, my next page was inspired by Gone with the Wind, and our prompt is about food. And Karen Fitting was our featured designer, and she shared a page that talked about going to a restaurant with this famous chef. And I had never heard of the chef, so I had to look up how to pronounce one of the things that she said, because mascarpone or something, like she when she said it, and she's like, oh, and she's always schooling everybody on how to pronounce that. I'm like, oh, I better figure out so I don't say it wrong too. So that was an extra fun challenge for me. But, we had the prompt about food, and so you can kind of see that how I was inspired from the day before. So this paper isn't quite black and white, but it is, well, it pretty much is black and white paper. And of course I've used color photos, and I've talked about lilac-oil butter. And part of the prompt with our food, it put us on a food or a diet, a scrapping diet, and we were to use no more than, what was it, 3 embellishments, 2 photos and 1 word or something like that. Do I have it written down here? 3 colors, 2 embellishments, and 1 word for a title. So I think I stuck within that, because I've got my black and white with my pink, and then I've sprinkled little bits of gold on there because I'm talking about the golden lovely butter that I tried. And does anybody have pages that they made that they want to show off? Like, I can do that as we go, or we can do it at the end, and I'm totally open to either way. And I hope that we'll be able to see some pages. I'll just kind of go through. So I'm very excited. I actually scrapbooked every day this month, and most of them were on prompt. And I'll get to the one that I didn't scrap on prompt, and I'll share a little bit about that. So our next day was day 8, and it was based on Citizen Kane. And it's known as one of the best movies of all time. Although I hear that from a lot of these movies, that they were the best movie of all time, which is why we picked them. Oh, thank you, April. She's a lovely page. And Beth Solar was our featured designer this day. And our prompt was to sensationalize your story, because during the time of Citizen Kane, it features this story about this guy that was this big newspaper magnate of the day. And one of the ways that they sold a lot of newspapers was through yellow journalism, which was a style of journalism that made your stories sensational and had very exciting titles. And, you know, they kind of embellished the truth or sometimes just lied. Yes, Ariel says tabloids. What we now know as tabloids were actually just the regular newspapers of the day. And we actually had, like, yeah, the journalistic professionalism wasn't so much there, but our prompt that day was to sensationalize your story. And I created this page, and this was a page, the story was on my bucket list of pages to do, or on my list of pages to create. So I created the ladle of mass destruction, and I told a story about my son loving this spoon and how it came with us on a flight down to Alabama. And the spoon had, well, the bag that it was in went back and forth through the x-ray machine. So I really thought this was great. And my color theme was drawn from the idea of that children's joke that I loved when I was a kid. What's black and white and red all over? The newspaper. Ha ha ha. So that's why my page is black and white with red. So, you know, you never know where the inspiration's going to come from. So our next page was the Maltese Falcon, or the next film was the Maltese Falcon, which is a film noir. And we were to use clues in telling our story, and our featured designer was Sue Carey. And Sue was my partner in crime for creating the prompts for this LOAD challenge. I tell you, she, like, if you liked the little synopsises of the movies and the little clips of the videos, you know, that's pretty much all thanks to Sue. She was fabulous, and she helped me find some of the best movies to showcase throughout the month. And yeah, so she did the Maltese Falcon in the film noir. And the way I interpreted it, I kind of wanted to use black and white, just black and white for the film noir, but I ended up bringing in some blue, and I kept it, you know, blue with black and white. And instead of clues, I kind of shared like little text messages that my husband had sent with little photos, and he kind of tells a story with little lessons, and I felt that it still really fit with this prompt. He took my son and they explored the bushes where there was a bunch of homeless. There was a bunch of homeless people that kind of hung out there, and they kind of explored the woods. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Great thing to do with our child. But yeah, so that was my film noir inspired layout, and I'm so excited that I scrapbooked that, because I think sometimes the stories, we live so much on our digital world and with our technology, and it's great to remember those kind of stories that we can pull from that. Like when you go through and you read the words that are on that text series, it still just cracks me up doing the whole thing. So April says, I love the blue and white. And Jacqueline says, I used black and white photos and Halloween embellishments. That's so perfect. And totally, if you want to share this, like, I invite anybody to come on camera if you have stuff you want to hold up and share, or if you're DigiScrapbooker and you have stuff on your computer and you can bring it up, then we can do screen shares as well, because we've tried that with Natalie before. All these things. So our next film, day 10, was High Noon, and this film is a Western, and I had actually originally picked a different one because it was like one of the only Westerns that I knew. from growing up with my dad. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly was the one. And she's like, well, if you're going to do a Western, really, Alice, we need to do High Noon. So thanks to Sue for that. And it was fascinating. I actually haven't seen the show yet, but I actually really want to now, because when she described it, I'm like, oh, this sounds really good. And just the stylistic way that she described some of the shots and the way that time was used throughout the film. And so time became our theme. You know, the show is called High Noon. So time was our theme for the day. And our feature designer was Melinda Greer from our group. And Melinda also created a video, like a process video for her layout. So if you missed her process video, make sure that you catch that. And of course, using time, you're using clocks or date stamps or different things like that. I included a clock on my page, and I showed a picture of myself with my husband from 20 years ago when we were married or engaged. I can't even remember if that's like, you know, celebrating marriage or engagement. And then 20 years later, this is us. So I told a story over time, and I thought that turned out really well. And I used one of those things that I love to buy that I don't always use very well. And that's one of those sheets that have the beautiful acrylic, but the transparency kind of sheets. And this is from the Magnolia Jane line from Hattie Swap. And for this one, I actually cut it apart. So there was like more design in the background, but I cut pieces of it off to kind of layer on the edges. And I just wanted to show you that because I thought that was kind of fun. And yeah, using the clock. So that was time. Then we came to Gentlemen Prefer Blondes with, oh, Jacqueline's got a screen share for us. Do you have audio too?
Yeah. I just turned it on.
Perfect.
So I pretty much had the same idea as you with time passing and clocks. And this is my sister and my niece.
Aww.
So it's some Prima butterflies, or no, Finnabar, I think, and Kaisercraft paper, maybe.
Very cool. Is that one clock in the corner, like actually on the background, Jacqueline?
Yes.
Cool. So, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. See, this makes it even better when we get to see other people's interpretations. And of course, like you can go through the gallery and we can see everybody's stuff there. But, I think that, this is great to kind of see where your inspiration led us. Okay. So day 11, we went to Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. And I actually watched this movie kind of as we were doing the prompts or kind of leading into this month, because I had honestly never seen a Marilyn Monroe show before. And I'm like, she's this iconic person. Everybody recognizes, like there's so many things that are kind of referred to about her. And I had never seen one of her films. So it was time. And this one showed up on Netflix and I sat down and I laughed and I laughed. It was so good, guys. Like if you haven't seen it, it was wonderful. So in this movie, she puts on a show, of course, in the movie, and she sings this song called Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend. And in her real life, she had stage fright. She wasn't really an outgoing kind of person, but she was thrust obviously into that role. That was the life she was pursuing. And I thought it was interesting to tell a story about how you put on a show, for the world, and as a bonus to use some bling on your page. And of course, that's right up my alley. So I was thrilled. And hopefully that wasn't too painful for people that aren't really blingy. But I went back to my childhood and found this sweet little photo that I had not scrapbooked of myself from my childhood. And, the photo itself isn't perfect. I think it's possibly an old Polaroid. It has like blue lines streaking through there. I don't know if you can see the blue lines streaking through the photo. But I think that it's a good reminder that a photo doesn't have to be perfect to be good. And I think that photo is adorable. My parents are sitting me on a little table to take pictures of me. Like, that's so sweet. And yeah, so I told a story about how when I was a child, if my mom wanted to keep me busy while she was trying things on in a store, she would park me in front of the mirrors and I would be completely entertained because there was no way on earth that I would cry in front of myself. So I thought that was really funny. And I related it to today, how I don't like to watch sappy, emotional movies that make me cry. And that was my Marilyn page. And these letters actually had little white dots on them, like the marquee letters. And I'm like, oh no, those need a little upgrade. So they got blanked up too. And our featured designer that day was Tony Leonetti, and her page was fabulous as well. Okay, Jacqueline's sharing a page. Do you have?
Sorry to kind of dominate, but this was one of my favorite ones because I do community theater. So this was just pictures of me being different characters.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's digital project life, and I love this layout with the journaling in the middle.
I love that. And, like, look at the embellishments. Like, you've got like the lovely journaling in the middle with the stars. And yet when you look at the page, like, it doesn't need embellishments. Like, the photos are your embellishments, right? And they're telling that story about you as an actress with your group. That is so good. I love it. And like, I've tried to look through pages in the gallery and I haven't even got through everything. So there's still all these lovely little surprises waiting for me. And I'm using it instead of Pinterest at night when I'm kind of like laying there and I'm scrolling through and I'm like looking through the gallery. So that's become my new way of playing. My thing here. Let me go. There we go. So Jenny's here. Welcome, Jenny. And Brielle said that this is fabulous. And April said, I love it. And I love that it incorporates so many photos. Yeah. And, what a way to kind of summarize like how much fun you've had doing that by bringing that all together. That's wonderful. So our next one was Ben-Hur. And I'm pretty sure I have seen this show, but a long time ago. And Claire Cummings was our featured designer that day. And our prompt was something that became bigger than expected. And you might possibly want to use some curves or swirls in your design to kind of mimic the big Coliseum or whatever, where they were having the big chariot races. So Ben-Hur, and something that became bigger than expected. Ben-Hur became a humongous production. I think they spent 7 months filming. They had like 14, 16 hours, days of filming. They had 10,000 extras in some of the scenes. They had, I think, 100 costume designers overseeing different groups to try to get all the costuming done. Like, it was like this massive, massive production. And, I thought that was a great way to kind of take something that was such a big project like that and to turn it into something that we could use to inspire our pages. And for me, that turned into a page about building our house. So it's called Building Our House, a Dream Come True, very slowly. Because it took a very, very long time. And, I've scrapbooked a little bit here and there, but not really told the story in this way about how much time it really took for that to all happen. And the whole time, of course, we were living in a travel trailer, and it's winter here in Canada, and it's not a winter camper. So, I thought that was a story that should be told. Jacqueline says, I love the brick paper. That is from Bo Bunny. It's from their Life in Color collection, and I have to tell you, it's my favorite paper that I've used. I recently just bought some more of the embellishments to go with the paper because I love it so much, and I've used a lot of it during this load, actually. And then the next one was really funny. Like, I actually almost debated, like, do we include something like this in our thing? So our next film on day 13 was Psycho, and it was a horror show, right? It's like scary. And I know that I have seen the show, but it's still scary to me. Like, and I loved Sue's comment about how when she had seen it with a film group when she was in university, nobody there had seen it before. So when they watched it together, it was like they screamed in the shots and it was like a brand new audience from the 1960s experiencing it for the first time. So I loved that she added that little commentary in there. I thought that was really fun. And our featured designer that day was Tori Bissell. And yeah, and fear can be the kind of thing to scrapbook, it can be like some big fear, or you can take it and go a little bit lighter and playful with it. And that's kind of where I went. So I ended up making this page, and I love the paper. It was like old paper. It's very thin paper, I think from Michael's or something. But I love that it was kind of similar to some designs that I had recently made from this trip to the Bahamas in my little journal. And so it looks almost like I could have made it, but literally the page went together in 20 minutes because I had to pick the photo and print it. And I did some spraying of the wood veneer again, and I tried doing an ombre kind of effect. So that was fun. But I talked about how my fear was this. I said, adventure, me too. Ever since I was little, I've always been worried about missing out. And my favorite phrase has always been, me too. And if there's an adventure waiting, I'll be there. And so I thought that was a really lighthearted way to take a prompt about fear and to scrapbook it. And so anytime there's a prompt, I hope that people kind of say, okay, it can go there, or we can take it to make it a little bit lighter or a little bit more relaxed. And I think that our sample layouts that we had this time kind of gave us a really wide breadth of taking prompts lighthearted or taking prompts and going really deep with them. And I really thought that our designers really did a fabulous job with that this month. So our next day, day 14, was James Bond, Dr. No. And, I had actually never seen a James Bond movie as a kid. I don't know how I missed out on this. My dad's even British. I know. April's like, what? No way. And I hadn't seen one until I started dating my husband. And oh my gosh, I'm like, where has this been all my life? Jenny says, my son loves James Bond. And there was so many ideas we could have pulled out of James Bond. But one of the things that immediately sparked attention for both Sue and myself was the gadgets. And, it's really funny because this kind of, we called this based on Dr. No, which is the first of the James Bond films. It's not the first book and it's not the first part of the story, but Dr. No was the first James Bond film. And yet Q, the guy who gives James Bond all of his stuff, is not actually featured in that first one. So I'm like, oh, well, whatever. We're totally doing it. The idea when we introduced these kind of big epic series was kind of introduce the first one of the series, but then, feel free to pull inspiration from the series itself. So the page that I created featuring gadgets, and it was really funny because I started making the page, and then afterwards I'm like, I forgot about the whole second half of the prompt. So the prompt was about featuring your gadgets featured in your life, and to feature one of your scrappy gadgets that maybe you don't use very often, or some scrappy gadget that you love. So I didn't use any scrappy gadgets, but I did feature a gadget from my life, and I featured the app Find Your Friends that I use all the time with my husband. We're always tracking each other to see where we are, and we're off on different things. And recently he'd been on an adventure down to Florida to go to an air show, and I had little pictures that I'd taken and screen captures of him on his little trip down to the Florida Keys and off to the air show and off with his friends. So he gave me the photos to go with the stuff, and I thought that was kind of a fun thing to show that just the way that we use our technology in our life. And we do it all the time. Like we're constantly like, oh, where's Jonas? Oh, okay, he's working, so I won't bug him right now. And then other times I'll be like, oh, he's at home, so let me call him. But I thought that was kind of fun. But I was sad that I forgot to use some kind of scrappy gadget. You know, sometimes you get part of the prompt and not quite the whole thing. Did anybody use a scrappy gadget on their page that day that, they were inspired and they're like, oh, I should use this thing? I heard several people say, oh, I should use my cutting machine, or I should use I heard lots of comments about that because, and I'm terrible for it. I totally should have used my cutting machine. That's a gadget that gets not nearly enough love in my life. Day 15, that's about halfway through the month, we featured The Sound of Music, and we had Tracy Reed as our featured designer that day. And we talked about confidence because Maria sings the lovely song, I Have Confidence. Jacqueline says she had used the Project Life app as her scrappy gadget, which is totally awesome. So I have confidence. And okay, so here's a little confession from behind the scenes. I tried singing a line from the song, and I tried singing a line from the song over and over, and I listened back to it, and what I hear in my head, or what I think I hear in my head, is not what comes out of my mouth. Like, it was so bad. It's so flat. It was so, like, bad. Like, the tone was just awful, and I was going to totally sing this little clip and have it included, and I tried recording it, and I could hear what was wrong with it. But there was no way I could fix it. April says, inside her head, acoustics are very enhancing. Yes, well, it was definitely not something that everybody wanted their eardrums subjected to. Just saying, what I think I can do with my voice is not what I can actually do with my voice when it comes to singing. So you're welcome that I didn't subject you all to that. But I did find something fun to do with a confident page. And I took this beautiful paper from Bo Bunny. This is from the same Life in Color collection that I mentioned earlier. And the page says, I'm good at this. And I've got a couple little strips of journaling on here that talk about my scrapbooking. So I actually went into the paper and I cut out the backs of all the little frames, and I put photos of my layouts in from behind it. So you can see little bits of different layouts that I was making this month. I think I've got a few extras because we were only 15 days in and I need more than 15 photos, but a lot of them are LOAD layouts or recent layouts that I had made. So I thought that was something that was really fun. And I thought it was a good chance for me to acknowledge that I feel really comfortable in my scrapbooking now, because I used to really struggle and I had a lot of issues with feeling that my layouts just didn't measure up and that they weren't good enough. And, in my head, I would tell myself, good enough for who? They're good enough for me. But I just wanted to be able to do something better with them. Oh, Jenny is sharing. Perfect. Can I put you? I'll put her on spotlight. Okay, Jenny, go ahead. Can we hear you? Oh, I don't know if we have audio. Hold on a second. I'll see if I can figure that out too. I'm really good at this, guys. Okay, she's showing her page with the first year of college confidence, not. She's got it in brackets, not. And I wish I could hear you so you could explain this. I don't know. But it looks like her son going off to college for the first time. Oh, sorry. A little nervous for the college adventure. I was able to read that on there. Thanks for pointing that out, April. I'm glad that you pointed it out. Thank you, Jenny. I love it. And I think that's a perfect topic for this, is to put on there, that nervousness of going off to college. I don't know if my son's going off to college or not yet this fall. He he's got a couple different ideas of what he's going to do. Yeah, that was a beautiful page. And I love like the little clip that you had on there. But what I really loved is in that title, that little knot. Yeah, I don't know why. Sometimes the tech really gets the best of us. But yeah, that's funny because like we've got you on mute and apparently the sound doesn't work after all. um, but yeah, so let's have a look here. So The Sound of Music. Next we had, okay, and this is like the funniest one. Have you guys actually watched the show? So Day 16, 2001, A Space Odyssey. Have you guys watched that movie? It is like the weirdest thing ever. Like, I'm like, what is this? Okay, like it's so weird. But it's a Stanley Kubrick movie. And Jody Morton did our sample page, and we talked about perfectionism because, you know, we could have tried to pull something out of that really strange movie, which, you know, it's such a classic that we kind of had to include it. April says, I saw it years ago. Mainly, I remember it was incredibly long. And Jacqueline says, I watched it with my students. We thought it was weird. Yeah. So it's so strange. But I'm like, you know, even within something strange like that, there's some kind of inspiration. And it's, I don't know why. It's like, is it because it's so weird that people are like, oh, that's amazing. That's so great. And it's like, we don't understand why that's so wonderful, but we're all going to say we like it. I don't know. But Stanley Kubrick himself was quite the perfectionist. And, you know, even though the movie itself I found to be really strange, apparently it was just the way he wanted it to be because he was quite the perfectionist and he would demand multiple retakes. And, you know, he was very exacting in the way he controlled the whole situations. And yeah, April says, like, to look sophisticated by liking something that's unintelligible. Exactly. But, you know, the music in the film, the way he used like the classical music, it's very, he did interesting things with it, let's just say. But I thought that the best prompt to pull from it was talking about perfectionism, since that was the way that he was. And so Jody had given us our sample layout where she showed us, you know, her side of perfectionism or non-perfectionism. And, you know, it got me thinking about a story that I wanted to tell from Christmas this year and how I'd started off Christmas. I should show it to you like this, like, so you only see half. So you see like all of my beautiful decorations that I put out at the beginning of the Christmas season. And then when we finally got our Christmas tree, I didn't have time to decorate it. We had a naked Christmas tree. And so I called my page All or Nothing, and I told about how I just ran out of time, didn't get the tree decorated. Nobody else volunteered to do it, so we celebrated Christmas with a naked tree. And I tried to keep it like so that this page looked really busy with the all and very simple with the nothing. April says, a woodland Christmas. Yes. And it was a real tree. It was very beautiful. It smelled great, but it was naked. And afterwards, people are like, are you sure you're not going to put decoration? And I'm like, by now, I've kind of given up. I think it's good. It's just going to be what it is. Oh, Jacqueline has something for us.
I have trouble because I am kind of a perfectionist, but my house totally doesn't show it because it's a disaster. So I did it about doing the laundry and following the directions exactly. So this is Simple Stories Domestic Bliss line.
I love that collection. I love that you use the card normal as just a setting on the washer.
I love that quote. Oh, and the picture of the dryer, you just put your phone inside the dryer. I did not think of that. I got the idea off of somebody's photo a day thing, or day in the life, I think.
That's awesome. Because she's actually taking the picture from inside the dryer. You can see some of the clothes and you can see her reaching it. That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's fabulous. I love the details that you've added. And I think that, yeah, laundry is something, you know, following the directions is good. I basically, at one point, decided in my life that if clothing needs to be ironed or needs special care, it probably shouldn't live in my house. So other than, you know, the fancy suits and stuff like that, those things that go to the dry cleaners, if it needs any more work than hanging it up after I wash it, then, then it's not going to live here. And I'm okay with that. That's awesome. April says, that is an amazing camera angle from inside the dryer. And it reminds me of Good Eats. They have cameras in the oven, in the refrigerator, etc. And she says, I don't buy things that must be ironed. My husband has become the master ironer because I can't do it. And I spent 5 years as an Army cadet back when I was a teenager, and I had to iron my uniform every week to make sure that it was perfectly ironed and crisp creases and everything else. And I've decided that after 5 years of ironing, I've done a lifetime supply of ironing, so I don't have to do that anymore. Let's. April says, Robert was in the Army. I could not live up to his standards, so he does his own. Absolutely. I think that's the best way. At first, when both of my boys spent a little bit of time in Air Cadets, and when they both joined, they expected mom to do their uniforms. that thought didn't last long. It's like, okay, here you go. Jacqueline says she has to duck out for lunch, try to get back before the end. And at the end, we'll do the drawing. So I should probably go a little bit faster through these prompts, but I'm very excited just to talk about the inspiration for them. So the next day was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And this is one of my all-time favorite movies. So I was really excited to include it. And I don't know if it belongs on a list of the best movies of all time, but to me it does. So I really wanted to feature this show. And for me, one of the greatest moments, of course, like as a kid, how can you not love the moment when the people all walk in and they see the chocolate factory, they see the chocolate fountain and the chocolate river, and there's the candy trees and just candy everywhere that they look. And one of the cool things about that, because of course I've listened to the directors, like, and the actors, like the behind the scenes DVD commentary. And one of the cool things is that those actors never got to see that space before they entered there. So when they actually walk in, the expressions that are recorded are their actual expressions of seeing that amazing space for the first time. And I'm like, that's awesome. And it just made me think of awe and wonder. And that, you know, that's what you see on their face, is the awe and wonder. And so that became our prompt. And I think with Willy Wonka, it totally lends itself to that awe and wonder thing anyways. And April says, I'm so enjoying this. I missed the whole load with crazy house stuff, so I can't wait to dive into these later. And so I was our feature designer. Of course, like, you know, I'm like, Willy Wonka, I'm going to be the designer for that day. I have to get that page scrapped because I never know ahead of time if I'm going to actually be able to get all the pages scrapped. But I knew that I really wanted to use that prompt. And so I actually told a story about something else that I'm really obsessed about, and that's a little bit of Harry Potter stuff. And we recently had gone to Disney World, and we went down to Universal Studios, and I went to the Harry Potter land and got to have butterbeer and butterbeer ice cream and frozen butterbeer. I enjoyed it so much. And just walking through the areas that they've developed, and like the Diagon Alley and the Hogsmeade Village, it felt so amazingly magical. Alice had a bit of better butterbeer. Yes, I did. And we kind of went as a trip for my birthday. So I was able to use like the word magic, and said magic in your mouth. And I did actually, I think I did a process video for this one too. So if you wanted to see that, it's shared on the Day 17 page, and it's actually up on my YouTube as well. So day 18, this is another one I wasn't sure about using this film, but I wanted to include the genre, but I'm like, what do we even do for that? So Sue and I had a chat and we talked about The Godfather and gangster movies because that was kind of a thing. And Karen said, I love this page of yours. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, so this was really fun. Thank you, Karen. And Sherry said, this is so great reviewing Load. I was out of the country for most of it, and anything that I did was about the trip that I was on, very off prompt. And Jenny says, I was the featured scrapbooker for that one. Yes. So for The Godfather, we were like, okay, so what kind of prompt do we have like about a gangster movie? And like, that sounds kind of, there's a lot of bad things happening in those shows. So what do we do? And Tina Campbell, so she says, Godfather's a great movie and should be in there. So glad that it was. And so then as soon as I talk, she says, it's all about family, Alice. And I'm like, it totally is. How does that not fit with a prompt about family? And so our featured designer was Jenny McGee, and Jenny's here with us today. Do you have that page where you can hold it up? Like, Jenny, do you have it in front of you? Or post it up? She said she'll look quickly. Okay, so I'll share my page that I did, and I talked about family. And look at this black and white photo with a colorful background. Look at me rocking that idea. I snagged that idea and I said, I'm using that again. And I printed just like this really random moment. We've got a bunch of family over at our house and everybody's just sitting around in the living room and we're just talking and hanging out. And it's just like this moment that you maybe wouldn't even take a picture of those kind of moments. But I loved how that's really one of the best parts about being with family is just those moments, like where you're just chilling and hanging out and being a family. And I thought that was the perfect way to talk about, you know, together with my family. And, you know, I said, that made me happy. I used little bits on it. And so I thought that was a really good one. And April said, everyone's attention is focused on one another away from the camera. And that's awesome. Yeah, my mom kind of saw that I was taking a picture. She peeked over. My brother saw me with the camera, so he was looking. But everybody else is like just captured in the conversation. Oh, so Jenny says she found it. So I'm going to put her up on screen. And hopefully we'll be able to get some audio this time. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so this is her Godfather layout. I don't have audio, but you know, she wanted to keep it focused on the family. She said like these pictures were pictures from like Easter, so they were kind of formal. So she had used this background paper, and then she kind of brought these little elements of fun with the little frames down the side where she added like little words about family and what family is to her. And then she was able to include like the little journaling down with a little embellishment cluster down at the bottom. And I thought that was just wonderful. And she actually talked about godparents, because that made like the prompt talking about family and the Godfather made her think about the Godfather. And so she talked about who their godfather or godmothers. No, she didn't talk about who their godfathers and godmothers to, because she couldn't remember some of those details. She's like, I know mine, but my husband didn't know all of his. But she was able to go in and talk about, I think, about her son. Okay, you'll have to correct me in the journaling if I got that wrong. If I got that backwards, I think I did. But yeah, I know that it was like about my kids' godparents. Okay, so that's good. I was like, I think I'm close. But you know, that one was a day 18. We've gone a few days from that, and her godparents too. Yeah, and she said, and it prompted her to look up. She was going to look up, and she said she looked up some of the details in her scrapbooks. I remember that too. So she said, your scrapbooks are good because they're a great resource for some of those details. And Karen said, it was so great to use an actual godfather. Yeah. So that was a great way to take the prompt about family and about the godparents. On day 19, we featured Star Wars for A New Hope. And this one was with Christy Strickler as our featured designer. And our prompt was talking about fathers. So we went from godfathers to fathers. And, how can we pass that up? Luke, I am your father. So that kind of became the catchphrase that represented. And so Christy had done her page about fathers, and she actually featured one about her husband and like the father of her child. And I did one about me dancing with my dad and how my husband and I actually eloped. We'd been engaged for a while, and then we actually said, let's just go get married. And we were going to get married in the summer, but we ended up going off in April and getting married then. And I felt bad that I had kind of denied my dad the chance to walk me down the aisle. Like, I kind of felt guilty about that. But, we did have a big party in August when we actually did our big get together. And, I had my first dance with my dad. And every time we go to a wedding or some other event like that where there's dancing, I always make sure I dance with my dad. And so I talked about that in the journaling. And I thought that was a great story to tell. Jenny's like, sweet. Yeah, and we talked about fathers or father figures because really in the movie, there was a lot of people that were like fathers, even if it's not about an actual father. Day 20 brought us the musical Grease, and Melinda Greer was our featured designer that day. Jenny says, mine was about my husband's father that he never knew because he passed away when he was 1. Oh, that's so sweet. Like, it's heartbreaking, but sweet. Sweet that you did that about him. For Grease, Melinda Greer, and we featured cars. And it's really interesting because, you can look through cars through the ages. You can look at cars right now, and that can kind of lead to so many different places. And I think that it's kind of fun when you look at it. There were some old photos of my mom as a baby, actually, babe in arms, with a car from her childhood that I really thought I might do. But then in the end, I remembered this photo that I had of my son getting stuck in the snow. So I thought that had to be the story that got told. So it was the first time that he drove, like, when there was a bunch of snow, and he'd been warned that it was going to be snowy and icy, but he was 16. He's not going to listen, at least not very well. And so he ended up stuck, and it's like not even a kilometer from our house. Like, it's so close. And there he was stuck in the snow. And my husband actually took the photo, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is he going to be super embarrassed that I scrapbook this? I'm like, whatever. He'll survive. And really, like, it wasn't a big deal, but it was kind of fun because Melinda, one of our featured designers of the day, had actually made a page a little while ago, and I'd watched her video, and she had used this this paste stuff. I don't know if I have it right here on my desk. This one here. She'd used this paste. It's glass bead glitter gel, and she had used some of that with a template, and it was just so beautiful on her layout. And I'm like, I want to use some of that. So this is not just sparkle paper. This paper here actually has this glass bead stuff on it, and I smeared it all around and was able to create that on the page. So that was really fun. And I was able to tell the story about my son getting stuck in the snow. So that was fun too. You just never know where these prompts are going to go. And yeah, we talked for a little bit about what we were going to do for a prompt for this one, because Greece just has so many fun little themes that we could have pulled, like summer memories and just lots of good stuff. Day 21, our featured designer was Lisa Harris, and Lisa's prompt was about Superman, and we talked about kryptonite. And she went and she's like, I know the things that I'm supposed to eat, but she shared a page all about her love of Reese's peanut butter cups. and I thought that was so much fun, and how she likes to get like I think it's like a ice cream treat that has the Reese's cup parts in it, and she talked about those treats and how she just loves to have them. She's like, I know better, but I can't help myself. And I thought that was really fun. And I kind of took it and went a little bit playful. Not that my boys are my kryptonite exactly, but they're the kind of kids I would just do anything for. And I had created this layout, and actually I did this one during a Scrapbook Live event. And yeah, so I had done this page about my boys, and that was a picture from Mother's Day, so it was kind of a recent one, so that was nice too. And I talked about how they were so willing to take a quick photo with me on Mother's Day, and I would do almost anything for them. And I love knowing that that feeling is mutual. So that was where that went. Jenny says, that's why it looks familiar. Nice layout. Thank you. Yeah, during the Scrapbook Live, that one, if you were there for Scrapbook Live, you saw that page come together. Day 22, we went back to the future, and Natalie Schmidt took us on a trip. So this day was so funny. Natalie was like, I'm waiting on some photos from my friend, and I'm hoping I'll get them, but if I don't, can I take this in another direction? I'm like, totally, like prompts are great that way. And so she actually submitted 2 different pages as her sample layouts. And I'm like, I've never had this before. This is fun. And so she did end up having one about like crazy 80s fashion. And I had taken the prompt and like molded it a little bit from the time that I had actually given her the prompt. So we talked about fashion, and she showed us a page about the great 80s fashion and kind of how she had that fit with her life. And she had a picture from her friend and herself as kids. And then she also talked about the DeLorean and how she had seen different DeLoreans through time. And she was actually right there where there was a DeLorean on Back to the Future Day, which is like the day that comes up where the DeLorean kind of would go to the future or whatever like that. And she was right there by a DeLorean, and she says, I had everything except for the, what was the gigawatts of power to make it work or something like that. It was just super funny. So we talked about fashion, and she also shared her DeLorean page. So there was different fun ways to talk about that. And Jenny says she has hers to share about robots from the New York City Wax Museum. I'll put her up on the spotlight. Super fun. So little monsters and robots of the future. And she's got pictures of her son with the robots. Karen says, oh, the flux capacitor. Yeah, the flux capacitor, the 96.7, I don't know what it was, gigawatts of power. 86.7, I don't know. Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, so Karen says, did you see my page that day? I recently got to sit inside a DeLorean replica from the movie, and it was such a thrill. I don't know if I saw that or not. I'll have to go back and look, because like I've seen a lot of pages, but I haven't seen them all. I haven't actually even made it through them all yet. So yeah, super fun. And actually, I totally could have scrapbooked the DeLorean side of things, because when we went to Universal, I'd taken pictures of the DeLorean that they had sitting there with the train in the background. And then as we were walking, Doc Brown walks right up to us, and we got pictures of my kids with him. I didn't get a picture of me with him. No, I took pictures of my kids with him, but not me. Didn't even selfie it. Didn't even think to. But I did tell a fashion story, and I have to tell you that the fashion story, it was like the actor Doc Brown, just so you know. Like it wasn't like a fake Doc Brown, not the actual actor. And so I did tell a fashion story about this fabulous jacket, and you guys are all looking at this jacket and going, oh my god, I want one just like that. That is so cool, Alice. I can tell. I can see it on your faces. And I thought this jacket was the best thing ever, and I had talked my mom into getting it for me. Then she made me wait to get it for Christmas, and that was torture, but I was pretty excited. And I actually used my typewriter, so that was fun too. So that was my little fashion story. After that, we had Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and our featured designer that day was Melissa Shannon, and I died when she said that she hadn't seen it because I love this movie so much. And it's just so, so funny. So I hope that Melissa goes and watches Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And, but she scrapbooked about what it would be like for her to have a day off. And she talked about a recent day that felt like a day off. And she spent it with her 15-month-old child and her husband. But she didn't have her 3 other children. So she said it felt like a day off. And I'm like, wow, that girl needs a day off, like a real day off. if taking a 15-month-old with you feels like a day off. So I thought that was really funny because, of course, we talked about your day off. And I told the story about how on holidays, my dream is that I'm this person that sits on the beach and reads and just relaxes. But in reality, I'm the person that can't get out of the water. I sit on the beach for all of 20 minutes and then I'm like, okay, now what? What are we going to do? And, I'm way better in my own life here about just relaxing, but no, not so much. And so I thought that was kind of fun. This typewriter paper is more of that Bo Bunny, and the blue stuff is, and the little embellishments. And so I talked a bit. And actually, it was funny because I think a few pages I reached back for pictures from my trip to Maui. I've done that, little bits of that recently. So it's funny how the inspiration comes in phases. April says, that's my kind of vacation. I'm not a mover and a shaker. I'm a layer in a lounge chair. I love the idea of it for like 20 minutes. And then I'm like, okay, now what? It drives my husband crazy. Day 24, The Princess Bride. And our feature designer was Sue Carey. And we talked about wishes come true. So that was a very fun prompt. And it was like maybe a wish that you helped come true for somebody else, or a wish that came true for you. And I love the whole idea of that. And for myself, I talked about the year that I got a Cabbage Patch doll for Christmas. I said, I got one. And I pulled a piece of like the classic literature about the Cabbage Patch dolls from a magazine. And I've got a couple pictures of me with her from childhood. And I don't know if you can see, but up there, she's sitting right there. She doesn't have her original outfit anymore. I don't have her birth certificate anymore. But there's my Cabbage Patch doll. And she's up here in the room all the time, but hiding in different places. So Jenny says it's so cool that you still have it. Oh, I loved her. April says mine went missing. I think my brother pawned her. Oh, that's heartbreaking. Hello. I see Jenny's. Is that your son? Yeah. I've seen lots of pictures of you, Luke. You're famous, Luke. You're famous. So that was really fun. So talking about wishes coming true was fun. And then we had day 25 featured the movie Big with Tom Hanks. And Allison Day was our featured designer that day. And we talked about not being an adult. And I thought that was kind of fun. Jenny says, my other son is Andrew, but I don't think he'd go on camera. He's a little more shy. So Allison talked about not being an adult. So we talked about that. And, maybe ways that you don't feel like a grown-up. And I don't know if everybody feels that way, but I certainly feel that way in my life. It's like, how is it that I have these kids? Because, like, I'm not even a grown-up. How can I have kids? But there's a lot of ways that you can kind of not necessarily feel like an adult. And my page was called like a kid in a candy store. And I had recently, when I went to Salt Lake City, I got to go to the American Crafts warehouse sale. So this is a picture of me at the warehouse sale and the shopping that I did there. So that's just the stuff I got from the warehouse sale. I bought other stuff at the Pebbles store too, which was crazy. Yeah, I had quite the shopping trip. I still don't have quite everything put away, but I've got some of it put away and I've used a bunch of it already. So that's been awesome. And so that was kind of fun. And I thought that was a good way to talk about not feeling like an adult. So Tina says, nice layout design. Thank you. I love the use of the washi tape. Yeah, so I've got a little down here, a little up here, and then I've underlined where I put the kid. And I used the lovely like candy cane kind of letters. So that was fun to kind of bring in that childhood thing. Oh, another cool thing, and I don't know, like if you guys want to see, but I lifted, like I cut these flowers. They're attached to the paper, but I just kind of cut them and lifted them and curled them up a little bit, just little pieces of them, which I think just adds that little bit of texture. And then I added a little bit glossy accent to the front. So that's just a fun thing there. Day 26, Forrest Gump. We talked about life is like a box of chocolates, and we talked about surprises. And our featured designer that day was Kathy McElfresh. And Kathy had sent me this note. She's like, Alice, if this page is not okay, if that's too much of a downer, just let me know. I'll do something else. But they were dealing with a breakup in the family, like a split up in the family. And it was kind of like a big surprise, but they were talking about how they were moving forward with this surprise. But there was a lovely little caveat that came afterwards. And she said from the time that she had made the page, things were looking a little bit better and things were coming back together. But that was, so she featured as a surprise that wasn't necessarily a good surprise. And sometimes surprises are that way too. So I was like, no, I think that's a great thing to share if you're willing to share it. And if you saw her page, it was so graphic and colorful, and she featured pictures from this color run, and like it was like this beautiful page, but it showed like, kind of that darker side of surprises, I guess, too. And not everybody went to that side of surprises, but for my page, I talked about surprising my dad. So that's my dad getting the lovely pillow fight attack on the page. And I'm like, wake up, Dad. And I talked about how he was a really good sport, even when stuff like this would happen. And so that's me, my cousin, and on the side there is my brother. So surprises with Forrest Gump. And I thought it was really funny when I was putting this all together because they're done by dates of the movies releasing. And the movie from day 25 was Tom Hanks, and the movie from day 26 was Tom Hanks. And I'm like, oh, this isn't the Tom Hanks show, is it? But yeah, we had a few. Then day 27, we featured Titanic with Tina Campbell as our featured designer for the day. And we talked about that moment where you're like the king of the world, or it's the best day ever. And it's so funny because it's like this cliche kind of thing, like this best day ever. Everybody's like, I'm sick to death of seeing best day ever on everything. But, how can you not, maybe it's not the best day ever, but it's like a super great day. So how can that not get a little bit of love once in a while? April says, I need to make a page about my love of shrimp. And that would be a good surprise and perfectly fitting with the Forrest Gump theme. So Tina shared a page about her best day ever, her great day. And I created a page that was about going back to Maui again. Surprise, surprise. And so this is a picture. It's really hard to see, but it's in real life, it's really hard to see. So I've got messy, crazy hair. It's like, looks like a tangled rat's nest over here. And this is my silhouette kind of laying there on a bed looking, and I'm facing out the window. And that's how I was waking up. And so it's kind of this crazy photo that, it's not really color nice and it's not that amazing of a photo, but, waking up when this is your view out your window, how is that not amazing, like, and blissful? How can that not be like the best day ever? So I decided to give that a little bit of love on this page. And as you can see, I've used more of this Bo Bunny paper in the background here. You're recognizing little bits of it, right? And I've got Waking Up in Paradise. So I thought that was a fun little take on the best day ever. And then, Jacqueline's got something to share. Awesome.
Yeah. So we did a team building thing when we did a retreat with my work. So this was one of those roped in the trees things. So the King of the World thing just made me think of it. And I just used the Wild Whisper Designs collection.
I love it. Strong, brave, and fierce. So it's not zip lining, but it's like the treetop
Kind of
tour.
like tight, yeah.
Cool, like tightrope walking, kind of. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, this was the kinder course though, because everyone thing was enclosed in net. And I said, that's perfectly fine. I'm not doing anything that requires a harness.
I've actually never done zip lining. Like that was one thing I wanted to do when we went on this one cruise, and my husband ended up putting his back out right before we left for the cruise. So we didn't get to do that. But this looks really fun. And he might have been able to manage that. So that's really good. Okay. And so after our best day ever, I kind of debated about this one too, actually, this including this movie. So the movie was Fight Club, and it has Brad Pitt and Edward Norton in it. And, you know, it's kind of weird. It's another kind of weird show. Um, and, but there was this one scene that really stuck out in my mind. And it's right near the beginning of the movie. Edward Norton is talking about his life and how it's like an IKEA catalog, and they actually did this cool little visual effect in the movie where they showed different things and they put little price descriptions and price tags kind of on all of the things as they move the camera around his room, and they kind of pop them up on the screen. And I was like, that's totally fascinating in the way that they did it. And, you know, they're totally making fun of it at the time, kind of in the show. And he's talking about how sad that is, that, you know, that's his life, about having all these possessions and owning these things. But I thought that it would make a really fun scrapbook page and be really inspiring that way, to kind of talk about catalog or magazine ideas and how you can use that. So I decided that I would be the featured designer for that day, just because I had this crazy idea. And I created this layout here. I just kind of watercolor washed the background before I got started, and then I tried to make it look kind of like a magazine page or something like that. So I've got like my big title with the mini title, and this here, like the subtitle, it's a little hard to see. I wish I had a better photo when I had printed it, but it says, "Let your creativity shine," and that's actually on the window here in my scrapbook room. And then this is the picture of the sign right there. See, I haven't changed it yet. In my scrapbook room, it says, "Welcome to Scrapbook Wonderland, happiness this way." And then I did like the, you know, the photos, and I did like the little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where I kind of have the photos and talk about each of them. And then I have like the area of text. So I thought it was really fun. If you look at it, like there's really no embellishments on this layout. Like the photos are kind of, I guess, are somewhat the embellishments, and using the graphic texting and just the whole layout of it, which I thought was kind of fun. But I thought that was kind of neat, and you can kind of catalog so many different things in your life. And I actually kind of want to do a few more pages in this style, where I talk about different things, and you can kind of, like here I talked about fun things from my scrapbook room, but I'd like to go around my town actually and have pictures of different things that I really love about the place where I live, and maybe go around through like my garden. And I have like awful gardening skills, people, but you know, the little things that have gone right, I'd like to actually document that and say like, this is nice, and this is nice. Jacqueline's going to share with us.
I just had a bunch of souvenir t-shirts that weren't flattering and didn't really fit. So I decided I was going to get rid of them, but I documented them first using the itinerary style kind of thing.
I love it. I love it. Cypress Hills, Fleetwood Mac. Is that Doctor Who? And Pink.
Yeah.
Live, shoot, scrapbook. Love it. I'll confess, I was at my friend's place, and she had all of these shirts that were from family reunions that she'd gone to. She wants to make a quilt out of them, she thinks. but she's not sure. So to get her to kind of release the idea of that, I actually had her let me take them to my house so that she could, kind of get used to the idea of them not being there where she has them in her space every day. She likes having lots of things in her house. So she's now used to the idea. So I think she might be ready to make her quilt. Karen says, this is a great idea. I missed this one during load, but I love the idea of documenting your scrap space. Yeah, and I've done a couple different layouts about it because I'm very happy with my room. But, I thought this one kind of brought a different angle to it. And Jenny said, I just used my son's favorite things. He had taken a lot of photos of favorite things, so had a way to use those photos. That's awesome. Actually, I know somewhere I have pictures of my kids' playroom when they were little. Like we put them together in the one bedroom so they could use the other room just as a playroom. And I had taken pictures of all their different toys. And I think what I had planned to do was actually make little cards so they can see where everything went, so they could put them all away. And I don't think I ever did that. But, I think I have those photos, and that would be a perfect way to use that as well. Okay, so we're nearing the end. Day 29, The Matrix. And of course, that's a whole another series of movies. But I kind of I had a few different ideas for the Matrix, but I talked about the Oracle and how when Neo goes to see the Oracle, she tells him what he needs to hear so that he can become the person that he needs to become. And it's kind of a funny thought, right? How it's not necessarily the truth that the Oracle gives him, but it's instead this thing that, helps him become the person he needs to be. And so our prompt that day was, I never thought I'd end up doing blank when I started doing blank. And our featured designer this day was Emma Clark, and her page was really fun for this. And she talked about how when she started doing her scrapbooking stuff, she never thought she'd end up running two successful scrapbooking businesses. So that was really fun. And she has the Mind the Scrap. So if anybody wants to check that out, definitely check her out. And I talked about made this page about my son's journey with swimming, and I talked about the moment where he made the decision that he wanted to take his swimming to the next level. And I thought, it wasn't necessarily, I never thought I'd end up doing this when I started doing this, but I kind of document that one moment in time where things changed. And where he decided that he was going to be working, he went from swimming for 3 or 4 months out of the summer to swimming 10 months out of the year, doing, 14 hours of swimming a week, and just like driving back and forth like crazy people. And, I think that, I can really pin it down to this one moment and this picture with him on the block there during the practice that was the beginning of it all. It kind of really spoke to that moment. April says, that page is very strong design. I love the horizontal reinforced by the circular paper. It focuses the eye. And this paper actually has constellations and stuff all in the design of it. And I just loved, I think it's from Pink Paisley collection. And, it's kind of it makes me think of that dream of that moment, right? And where that kind of fits, because you might think constellation paper, you're talking about swimming, but for me, it's kind of thinking about the dream of that moment and where that's going to lead. So that was where that led to me. And from the Matrix, I love how that seems so random to go from here to there. And when the stars align, yeah, that's perfect. So the next day was our Harry Potter day. I was so excited. I totally have the story picked up that I wanted to tell, and it was about magic in your life. And our featured designer that day was Carol Calloway. So thank you to Carol. And this was the day that I realized that the magic paper that I had been packing around with me, waiting for this prompt, I had left my travel bag in Spruce Grove. I was in Whitecourt. I didn't have the paper that I was desperate to use. So I ended up going off prompt because I had to save that story. I couldn't use different paper. Like, it needed the paper that I had been waiting for to use. And yeah, I was like a little sad. So I went off prompt. I made a different page, and it's kind of a magical thing. I scrapbooked about one of my friendships with my friend. So it's called Scrapbooking Wine and Laughter. And look at me, black and white photo, color background. Here we go again. So we've seen that a few times now. But I was talking about, hanging out with my friend and how that's such a great thing. So that was my first, really, where I went off prompt. But I plan to go back to that one to get that one done. So we'll see. And I'll definitely share it because I'm very excited about it. I'm like, oh, I have to tell that story. And then last day we had The Martian. And for The Martian, I had actually listened to the audiobook before I had watched the movie, and I have to tell you, I loved it. Loved it. The audiobook is hilarious. It has swearing, so if you're not cool with swearing, you probably don't want to listen to the audiobook. But the movie with Matt Damon, I was scared of watching it. I was so scared to watch it because, I wanted to watch it, but I was scared to watch it because I'm like, oh, usually movies ruin books. They just ruin them. And when I watched the movie, I was actually really relieved at how good it was because, obviously they can't capture every moment. I think the audiobook is 15 hours or something. I don't know. It's a lot when you're reading this book and it has all these rich details. And I thought they did a really good job of capturing that. But, they dealt with NASA. I talk about this in our thing. They worked with NASA to get their details right. And the author had actually done a bunch of research to get his science right and to get his details right. So we were able to actually, you get that real feeling. It really feels real, where sometimes when you watch these space shows, you're like, oh, really, give me a break. Even I know that that's not even possible. That's just lame. But the Martian works out really good. And in the show, the character played by Matt Damon, Mark Watney, he's abandoned accidentally on Mars, and he's left there for dead. And Sherry's running off. And Mark Watney is forced to be very creative and come up with ingenious ideas so that he doesn't die, and to communicate, because of course communication's been cut off too, because it would be way too easy to be like, hey dudes, you left me behind. but no, that wasn't a possibility. So he solves all these problems, and I thought that we would talk about ingenious ideas. So Brielle had shared a page about an ingenious idea, and Brielle says, I love how much you laughed when you were talking about my page. I was hoping that it would come off as funny, and you totally got it. Oh gosh, I was cracking up, seriously. She had pictures of her husband wearing these mudder boots or whatever. They're these things for walking across mud, kind of like a snowshoe kind of version, but for coming across mud. And she looked at him and she said, I think those are on backwards. No. He knew what he was doing. And he goes off, and the mud up the backside of his pants when he gets back is hilarious. There is so much mud. She's like, that can't be right. And so afterwards, of course, he goes on the website and sees, oh yeah, he had the mud backwards. So, super funny. And that was her. She knew what the problem was. And I thought that was a great way to use the prompt, and it totally cracked me up. And so for me, I talked about a problem solved, and I have this picture of my two boys with my cousin's son, and they are worn out because I took them to a trampoline park, and they had to jump around and act like little crazy boys and flying through the air, doing flips into the foam pits, and they had an absolutely fabulous time. And I kind of solved two problems with this one, because I got teenagers to get away from sitting around playing video games, and I wore them out. They were going to sleep good that night. So I thought that was a fun take on that prompt. And yeah, that's the end. That's like 31 pages and 31 prompts, 31 stories, and so many more stories of inspiration to tell. And we have a big grand prize. So I don't want to forget. So we'll do it like right now. We have a bunch of people that I received their names, and I have to ask here before I do this, is there anybody that did not submit their name that completed a page every day? Because right now you have that last minute, like, hey, I did every day, I didn't get my name in there. Type it in the comments. This is your last chance. So I'm going to read the names as I put them into my my pot, my plant pot. I'll read the names so that you'll hear that your name is in the draw. And here we go. We've got Kathy Holiday, Rita Tong, Barbara McCracken, Jacqueline Bruce, Jacqueline was here today, Deborah Eklund-Smith, Marcia Fortunato, Jennifer Gelman, Linda Rosswag, Kathy McElfresh, Joy McCaig, Carol Calloway, here you go, Lindsay Conforto, Natalie Schmidt, Natalie Naspeltier, Deborah Williams, Sue Carey, Jenny McGee, Carmen Tarala, she's one of my friends from high school, Laura Toriello, Jolene Joyce, Linda Kostiak, that's Carmen's mom, also one of my friends, Karen Hobbs, Claudia Gajewski, Kale M, Danielle Leonetti, Monica Moriak. I'm sorry if I said it wrong. Monica, you're in here. Gwendolyn Dapper. I'm going to mess your name up. Gwendolyn, you're in here. And Gwendolyn is in our Scrap Happy family. Yay, welcome. Lucy Falls. Tina Oki. I met Tina at the Scrap Happy, or at the Scrap Gals retreat. Tina Campbell. And Michelle Beebe. So we have 31 names in the draw. So many finishers. And 32, because me too. I actually finished all my pages this month. So that was super awesome. But I'm not in the draw because that's for you guys to win all the fun stuff. So we have lots of names in here. So we'll have our like pretend drum roll, right? This is our drum roll. Claudia Jaguski. She is our grand prize winner. So thank you to Claudia and to everybody else. But Claudia, you are going to be receiving all 4 of the Gossamer Blue kits for the month of June. So they have 4 different kits. They have a traveler's notebook kit. They have a planner kit. They have a life pages kit, which is like the pocket style cards. And then they have a scrapbooking kit. And I had contacted Lori because I just intended to buy our grand prize. And she's like, are you kidding? I'll totally sponsor that. So it was kind of, yeah, this fabulous thing that she did. And congratulations to Claudia. I hope that you love using it as much as I do. And knowing that you're going to have the kits for June, maybe you'll be able to attend the scrapbook live that I do for June. And that will be fun too. So thank you so much to everybody. I loved seeing your pages in the gallery. I love seeing the comments, the connections. We had fabulous sponsors this month. Sorry, I should mention our sponsors. I don't have my sponsor sheet out. Hold on, I can pull it up. Yeah, we had fabulous sponsors this month that, and we have sponsors that step up every single month for us and are every single time, that are super wonderful too. So, and we had some new sponsors this month. So Karen Fitting is a representative for Forever, and they do photo storage, and they have scrapbooking options. Like, they have a lot, they offer a lot. But if you're worried about losing your digital photos and you're getting overwhelmed by them and you don't know what to do, and how to store them, Karen is the person you need to talk to for that. So definitely talk to Karen about photo storage solutions. And thank you so much for being another LOAD sponsor. And she's also a creative memories consultant. So if you remember how fabulous creative memories tools are and you like using their different products, then Karen has the stuff that you need for doing your scrapbooking. So talk to her about creative memories as well. Beth Solar from Scrap and Wonders offered up a fabulous traveler's notebook insert, and she offers those in her Etsy store. She offers some really cool types of insert paper, so that's a really fun thing. Connie Hanks had a great discount for us for her Etsy shop for her planner products. And that was a really great thing because that was for everybody, not just for one person. So everybody got a chance to pick up a great deal for some of her planner products. And Melissa Shannon from Digital Scrapbooking HQ also had a digital class to give away, the digital scrapbooking for absolute beginners. And she also offered a discount on the course for the month of May. So that was awesome. I gave away a spot in my Scrapbook U course that I have on my Scrapbook Wonderland site. And it's a course where you take 25 pages to kind of create a highlight album all about your life. So that's fun. And, you know, a lot of scrapbookers I know don't have an album all about them. So this was my solution to that problem. And we also had Andrea Bethke from the Fairy Tale Club sponsor a prize. So that was super great. And she's brand new with the Fairy Tale Club. She's creating all of her own products and a prize. Yeah, it's like a whole kit of stuff. And it's all based on fairy tales, and she uses different fairy tales for inspiration every month. So it's something really cool and new to check out. And April says on here that Melissa's courses have helped me so much in my digi scrapbooking. Yeah, she has such a calm voice. If you haven't heard Melissa's voice, you want to check out her classes just to see how calm and relaxing she makes that. So that's wonderful. And of course, our grand prize sponsor of Gossamer Blue. And I have to say, she's just fabulous. Oh, Jacqueline says, I took that class too, and it was great. So yeah, our sponsors bring fabulous things to us, and I really appreciate their involvement because it makes it more fun when we get free stuff. And Claudia will know all about that because she will get the 4 kits from Gossamer Blue. So thanks to our sponsors, thanks to our scrapbookers, and thanks to everybody that was able to be here or catching things on the replay. I really love that you're part of this. Breaking news, I kind of give a little hint. We are going to have a LOAD mini this summer. I tried one last year. It's a little 7-day version of LOAD, a little bite-sized piece. We don't have finishers prizes because, you know, like it's 7 days. We can get through it. But we do have a lot of fun, and there will be some prizes for it. So that should be good. And I'll have some more details about that in just a few days. I was hoping to have it today, but I totally don't have it for today. But yeah, the LOAD mini last summer was super fun. And if you really like the whole LOAD format, in October, the Scrap Happy membership will be having our next LOAD, and it's a member run LOAD. So you have to be part of our group to be there. And April says, can you remind us about reunion? Yes, and I actually have the itinerary that everybody's been wanting to be posting up this afternoon. So that's exciting too. Reunion, we are going to San Diego, California, July 14th to 16th. And we have 2 fabulous guest instructors. One of them is the most amazing Amy Tangerine. Yay! Amy will be teaching a class on the Friday afternoon of our get together, and on the Saturday we will be having a class with Connie Hanks. And Connie Hanks scrapbooks. She plans. She makes planners. She makes planning little amazing things, and she also takes amazing photos because she's a photographer. And one thing she does really, really well is beach photography. So we're going to do a little session about photography with her, and then we're going to go to the beach and actually take amazing beach photos that day. So that's going to be our little outing, and we'll grab supper on the way. So that's going to happen on the Saturday. So if you're interested in coming to reunion, yeah, have to be a Scrap Happy member, but you know, the more the merrier. We'd love to have you. And yeah, we'll be everything like meal wise, everything like that. It's all included. You just have to pay for your lodging. Class supplies are included. Like we try to make sure that, you know, once you've paid for your registration, once you pay for your hotel room, everything is good to go. And then, yeah, it's going to be amazing in San Diego, California. We're there at one of their most beautiful times of year, right there in the summer. Yeah, I can't say enough about how excited I am. And I had the chance to meet Amy Tangerine when I went to CHA in January, and fabulous. April says, beautiful sun, ocean breezes. Yes, absolutely. And we're going to take advantage of that in the best way possible and make it so that the next time we go back to another kind of beachy or wonderful location, and it won't just apply to beaches. She's going to have fabulous tips for all kinds of photography, but definitely we'll learn how to take those shots so that when we come back from our holidays, you look at your photos and you're like, oh, these photos are amazing. I can't wait to scrapbook them. So that's a really fun thing to do. So that's the plan. I hope that we can get some more people signing up for this soon. I know we've had several girls signing up already, which is exciting. And yeah, July 14th to 16th, come join us in San Diego. And April says, I'm working on figuring out my plan for reunion. Yeah, yay, that's awesome. So yeah, very fun. So that's it, guys. This is our LOAD wrap-up party. I can't believe like this month has been amazing, and so many more good things coming up soon. And you're very welcome. And yeah, really looking forward to the next adventures that we have happening. So if you've liked kind of what you've seen, come join the Scrap Happy family. If you're already a Scrap Happy member, come join us in San Diego, and it's going to be a great time. And we'll have more LOAD stuff coming up soon. I'll make sure everybody knows about that and what's happening, and more scrapbooking ahead. So I hope everybody has a great day, and happy scrapping.